Hey lovelies, so today I'm going to be doing some cross stitch because a lot of people have been requesting it. So I've actually, all this orange is what I've been doing in the last month, I would say. Maybe certainly been a few weeks that I've just sort of picked it up and got right back into it again. I kind of was thinking I'd just sit and do a bit for you. You can see how far it has come along since you last saw it. I don't know how easy that is to show you, but I think when I saw you last time I was probably just around here because yeah, I've come a long way in the last few weeks. I have really progressed with it actually. So yeah, just trying to decide which bit I fancy doing today. As you can see, we're sort of approaching the apples, and there's all those bits. So there's lots of little bits here, lots of colour changes. This bit I'm not quite so excited to do because that's all, I think it's corn, like cobs of corn, and they're all wrapped in like they're greenery. So you know, you're doing different colours for the corn itself and then different colours for the leaves too. So it's quite a fiddly bit. And then this bit up here starts going back to the single ply. It's like usually one strand of thread instead of the two, which is fine, that's okay. I don't know, I just don't find that as exciting because it's not as thick. It then just, I don't know, it's just different. And then I need to move up and continue with my roof, which again I haven't quite worried about doing so much because it's lots of repetitive, like it's great I think if you're like sort of like in the evening, like I was watching a film last night, it was a really good film, it's called The Secret of Marrowbone or something like that. It's on Amazon Prime. It was really good, a bit jumpy, had a really good twist at the end which I wasn't expecting. So yeah, go and watch it if you like ghostly films. It was really good. There's also faces in it, like famous people that I had seen in other things before, so it was good. It caught Charlie, what's his name, from Stranger Things, so that was good. Sorry, on a tangent. So yeah, this is ideal if you're sitting and watching a film because of the fact that it's repetitive. You're not having to really focus on your pattern. It's just straightforward, backwards and forwards. You need to be careful over where your edge is starting and where it's finishing, so you get the staggered effect. But it's, and also counting how many stitches you're doing. That's very important because obviously you're not stitching to an end. But yeah, for the most part, that's much better because I was doing it the other night. Watching another film and I ended up unpicking these little bits because I misjudged where some of the half stitches were, so that was really frustrating because I'd sort of come round and back and then round again and then done them and then realised that I'd made the mistake, so it literally meant I had to unpick so many bits, and I wanted to just sort of put it down and think, oh right, well I'll do it later because we'll do it tomorrow. I don't like to put it down when I have a colour on my needle because of the fact that it, I don't know, there's a risk of you forgetting what you've done. I don't know, I just feel like you're more risk of making an error. Also, I've done it before, I've then put it down and then just not picked it up for like months or even weeks or months, you know, and then it can complicate things. So I'd much rather finish that thread, finish that bit of pattern and then put it down. I just think you're much less likely to make a mistake that way. But also don't do complicated bits when you're really tired and it's like 11 o'clock at night. I strongly advise you, that's not a good idea. That's when I make my most mistakes. But it's also a time when I really want to do the cross stitch. Okay, so I've now fed my thread through my needle. I tend to sort of moisten the end of it and then squash it in my fingers, and it tends to fit quite nicely through the needle that way. Okay, so on my pattern we are going to be doing the twos, so I shall start from, well, that is for you to see. I'm going to start from this edge here and work along and back, and then I've got a half stitch here, and then I'll come down and do those last few bits. It's not that many stitches for this particular part, so it's not complex. Now I feed, where are we? There we are. Through here, and then flip it over so that I can see where it's got to go in, and then I find another bit of, like an old stitch, and feed it through the back of it. So this is where people tell me that I do it wrong. So I've put the knot in, and technically speaking, you don't need to tie the knot when you can just feed it through and just leave the knot there. But like I said, I'm a bit clumsy, and I don't trust that it won't come through. So I like to tie a simple knot in the end, and then feed it through, and that works for me. So I just think when I'm putting it down for like a few months at a time, if that's the case, I just don't want the threads to come undone. You know, that's hard work I've put into it, and through a simple lack of judgment or something, or getting caught on something, I don't know. Anyway, so I come up from the top right and go in to the bottom left, and we're just going to repeat that movement to the end. The other thing is, which actually somebody commented on a previous video, was about the fact that I'm ambidextrous. So I like to have one hand above my cross stitch and then one hand below, because it just makes it easier instead of faffing around. Sort of, and one hand gets tired sitting there holding it all the time, so it gives the other hand something to do, I think. But yeah, and the other very important thing to note is by having hands out here, the dirt collects up. I always wash my hands before I do cross stitch. However, naturally, I suppose there's probably dirt on the fabric, and I don't know, just maybe if your hand, a bit gross, sorry, but if your hands sweat whilst you're doing cross stitch, I don't know. You do just naturally collect dirt. I suppose it's like touching the pattern, and then like maybe the ink getting on your hands and then gets onto the fabric. So I like to fold it over so that I'm not actually touching the pattern side, it's just the underneath. I know underneath a little bit touching it, I suppose, but I'd still like to do that. And that just helps reduce the risk of any... It is difficult when you're at the edge, there's less fabric to fold over, but it just reduces the risk of dirt transferring onto the fabric, because it's not easy to get rid of it once it's on there. So when you've finished your pattern, you want to have a nice white border, and that's like you can see on this side. It's not, it's going to have that dirt there. However, that's not to say that there must be a way to wash it out. I don't know myself, I haven't framed cross stitch before. I have got another finished piece that I did. I just haven't got around to getting it framed or anything. But you could also maybe just get a cardboard frame, like inside the frame. That makes sense, like a white border to place over the top, and then that goes in the frame at the same time. So you could even do something like that, and then it would be hidden anyway, or disguised. But I have heard of there being different ways of cleaning up, because it just happens. It's just natural to get that on your fabric. So that's the end of that bit. There is a half stitch, because it's white. You can't really show you very easily. Sorry, but for a half stitch, you just come up. If it'll let me show you, yeah, you just come up halfway between the square of that stitch, and then go back down to the bottom corner, depending on which way, because the pattern, depending on where the half stitch is showing, sometimes it's the top right, bottom left, or it just depends. I really pay attention to that. I remember early on when I was doing cross stitch and there was half stitches in the patterns, and I just assumed they were all the same way, and they're not, and that was a mess. That one never finished. Beautiful design. It was a ballet dancer, which I do have somewhere. I might have it here, but that was 13, 14 years ago. I was very young, it was a very difficult pattern. Like I say, it's so beautiful, but I'd used the wrong colours and the wrong parts, and my mum, I had given it to her, and like she'd said, look, I'll finish it, and we'll get, it was a Christmas present, I think, so she'd said, yeah, she'll take that one and they'll get me one that's a bit easier. I don't think she'd anticipated it being sort of that level of difficulty, but yeah, basically I'd just tried to do it on my own too much and not had her help, and when I wasn't sure about something I'd done it anyway, which was foolish, but I was young, you know. So the next part of this pattern, we're going to come down underneath that half stitch, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches. Sorry, that was about to show you, and not have it too high on the screen. So there's the half stitch, and we're going to come down here. Now, if you're fairly new to this, I'd advise sort of highlighting off as you've done bits, whereas I don't know, feel a bit more confident with it, so I'm just going to, I'm confident I know where I'm up to, so I'll do these bits and then I'll highlight it afterwards. But that's up to you, that's completely your decision. So, oh, that's got caught on my fingers. The other thing to be aware of when you've got quite a long bit of thread like this is that it can knot when you're pulling it through, so you want to be careful. I don't want to pull it through too quickly, but yeah, you don't want to just yank it. If it's knotted underneath, I tend to have my finger, I'll show you when I get to the next stitch. Obviously this side you can see, so I fed it through this side. As I'm pulling it through, I actually have my finger sitting here like this, so there's the needle. I tend to have my finger there, so this is going to be challenging. So I like to hold my finger there as it's feeding through, and that way you can feel if the thread knots up at all, you can feel that it's come through nice and neatly, and therefore if it was to knot up, you know that you've got to sort of untangle that. Otherwise you just end up with loads of thread in clumps underneath, and you just waste the thread, it never gets used, and you'll find that you won't have enough to complete your pattern. So it's just a handy way of doing it as well. Equally, I'm giving lots of tips out, but if anyone has any tips for me, it'd be much appreciated as well, because my mum taught me to do cross stitch, but it was a long time ago, and for the most part I've sort of done it on my own, and learnt through mistakes, and her teach me how to correct. That's the other thing to watch out for, is your fabric getting caught around. But yeah, there's always ways to learn new things, so always grateful for any advice. So yeah. Okay, next part we're going to come down and do this 2 and then a half stitch underneath that. So see that I could feel that has tangled slightly, only a little. Just gently tease it out. Sometimes it is a really simple fix. It's not like a really knotted part of the thing. So other times it's sort of unsalvageable, and I spent about 15 minutes yesterday evening trying to untangle a bit, and I'm very much as soon as you feel it's knotted a bit, I'm straight away resolving it. I don't tighten it up. You can use your needle to sort of get in there and fix a bit if it's, you know, squeeze the needle in the knot and sort of try teasing out little bits. Right, so I'm just going to highlight that off. Okay. So have I got any other two? Oh yeah, I've got those two, haven't I? And down here too. Which bit do I want to do next? This is what I'm saying. So I like to use this colour instead of sort of putting that away now. I'd like to sort of work on doing some other bits. The risk of doing this bit here is that I'm going to run out of space, because I might actually. I may have just lied. Ugh. It's quite a fiddly bit. I might come down here and do these bits first. Yeah, let's do that. I mean, I could just do how we used to, just go on to a different colour. Right, so to cast off, I tend to find the two stitches closest to where I've been working. And just feed them through. How well it is for you to see. It's not focusing very well, sorry. So I just feed it through two of them, pull it through gently, and make sure that it's not got a loopy bit or anything like that, it's pulled through nicely. And then I get my little Swiss Army knife, because it's just handy to use one of these. It's nice and compact. And then I just snip the end off. I don't tie any knots in the end of it at that point. That's just, I trust that pulling it through a couple of stitches is enough. Right, just gonna re-knot the end. So again, just a double knot. Oops, that's too close to the end, which meant it didn't even tie. Might just pull that thread down just a little bit because it's a bit too long. And if you've got too much excess, that's when it's likely to tangle. So I'm going to come down this bottom bit here, as there's some twos. It's not loads, but enough that it'll be just fit in nicely. As you can see, I've got some of the gaps from where I've been working on this bit already, so I think I'll start off at that one up here. So again, put it in where it needs to be, go to the next stitch along. Everyone has different ways of starting off a new colour, new bit of thread. This is just my way of doing it, so you develop your own technique as you sort of get into it anyway. So alright, can't get that one through. There we go. So this one's down 3. Yep. So it's down 3. And then it's diagonally across to and down to the bottom. Well, I shall go down and do those because that will use less thread doing it that way instead of sort of jumping too much. That's right down to the bottom. So it's 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, and 4. I apologise if you can hear much road noise, but so it's this one and there, and then up there too. I think that's it, and then we'll come back. Actually, you know what, that would work better if I did it in the other direction. We'll go that way and then down and then across. Let's check I'm not missing any of the bits. No, that looks good. Let's go up a 4. 2, 3, 4. It's another diagonal one. I'm just going to take those bits off because I don't want to lose track of where I've been. Okay, so next we are going to be coming across, jump the gap, and there's 2, and then another 2, and then another 2. And then we could do those. Oh, yeah, this is where it gets a little bit. I think do those 2, and then maybe those 3, and then, yeah, that would work. Okay, so we're jumping the gap. And that is just 2. Oh no, that's right. I think that's how I said, wasn't it? That's it. Hang on. I've already forgotten what I said. Oh yeah. Which way have I just... Let's do that way. I think. Do those 3? Yeah, that works. So 1, 2, 3, and there's one up here too. And then come back down. Okay, yeah. I'm just going to cross those off before I get confused because I'm good at doing that. It's so satisfying when you cross it off. Okay, so then we're trying to split the thread when you're coming through a hole as well, because it can show up on the design. Oops. And getting towards the end of that bit, let's just move the needle along. Come on, why is that not coming through? What's in the way? That's interesting. Okay, so that's those 2. And there's 2 here as well. Where do we want to go next? I think we'll come up with those two first. And then up to the right. Down those two. There we go. Okay, bring that down. Let's just cross off again so we don't forget. A bit confused. And we do these two as well. Okay, where do we want to go next? Might skip across to the right from there. Is it directly right? Yes, it is. So miss one and along. It's right, and then it's down one, and then it's left diagonally. And then down another one. Okay, nicely done. Oops. Sorry for the mic, the fabric touching it. That's those two, or four should I say? Can't count. Let's cross them off. And those two. And then it's diagonally up to the right. And then up one. I might just come down on those two. And then diagonally up to the right again. I think that's the final stitch in this section. I'm just going to cross that off. And then decide where I'm going to go next. I might put the colour down. Oh, I don't know though. It's a nice section here. Yeah, let's put it down. Change colour. Keep it exciting for you. Just feeding that through. And then cast that off. Okay. Just pop the needle in the pattern whilst I'm doing that. Loop it back round your thread. And what colour should I do next? Could finish that lid. Oh no, let's do that bit because it's green though, isn't it? I'm trying to do bits that are a bit different for you. Okay, right, so I think I don't know which bit to do next because I don't want it to be boring. I like to mix it up a little bit. I've already kind of done this bit. I think I'm going to do the green because I have to get that little bit finished. It's going to really bother me. Okay, I'm just going to get my thread. Get a couple of strands. Oh, if I can separate them. Which end? I think we shall use this one because that's looking a bit tartar. Let's do my double knots. We're going to come up. Which bit should we start from? Okay. Oh, that was the wrong hole. How did I manage that? I don't know. Okay. That one. So 1, 2, and a half stitch. Half stitch, and then we're going to come back. Alright. Oh, appear to have one of my hairs caught in there. Oops. Right. So that's that. And then we're going to go down. And this time it is 3 and then a half stitch. Oops, I've got on my finger. And we're going back another one. Yeah. And there appears to be a half stitch included in that one at the other end. That's 4 stitches and a half. That's 2. It's not, sorry, I got that wrong, it's only 3. So that's another half stitch, and then we come down another one. One, 2, so 3.5 it is. I believe there's a half stitch underneath, there is too. Okay, right, we'll do 1 and then a half. And there we go. Right, let's just cast these bits off. There's that hole. Little window down there. Perfect. Okay, I'm going to cast that off. And then snip it. Oops. Breaking my scissors. Right, if I just knot and end up. It's amazing how long it takes to do it. You feel like it's quite a quick process. I mean, theoretically it should be, but it's really not. Like, so I said at the beginning that like the bit that I've highlighted for this time, I've been doing it for certainly at least a few weeks, and it's kind of that feeling that you think, oh, I thought I'd have done more than that by now, but actually I'm really proud of what I've achieved. It's really starting to feel like it's coming to life now, you know. It doesn't feel completely like that until you get all the black lining around it, because that literally is the best part. So I've only completed one other piece in my lifetime, which, like I said, I haven't actually had it framed or anything like that yet. And I was really sort of like not particularly looking forward to doing the frame. I think because my mum, she's not a big fan of doing it. Like, she actually made the comment to me that the piece that she's working on at the moment, she specifically chose that one because particularly because it didn't have any of the black work on it at all, like the definition stuff. I don't know what the technical term is for that, sorry. Back stitching and all that, I don't know. Because she finds it such hard work, and it's just, it's fiddly. But actually I didn't mind doing it on my other piece. That was my first ever experience of doing it, and I don't know, I didn't enjoy it per se, but it wasn't as bad as I was expecting it to be. But it's put it in perspective, for example, like with knitting garments and things. My mum hates having to sew them up. When it comes to that point, like, to her that's the least enjoyable part, and actually I really enjoy sewing up. Really, really enjoy it, to the point that I would do it for her if she wanted me to, but I think it's part and parcel with doing the garment. You're like creating that yourself, like you want to do it all. You've done that much. The sewing up is part of it, and my way of sewing up might be slightly different to her way of sewing up, and she's been doing it far longer than I have, so her technique is probably a bit more refined. But everyone has their preferences over like what their favourite parts of doing different crafts are, I think. And for me, I haven't really learned how to pick up stitches or anything when it comes to knitting, so at the moment I still get my mum to do that bit for me. But I mean, I think the pattern I'm working on at the moment is going to have to include picking up stitches around the neckline, so it's something that I need to learn, and I would like to learn to do it, because I don't want to have to rely on getting my mum to do it, because it's not, I don't know, it's something that I should learn to do myself, basically. Go right then. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. I think, yeah, that's there on that. Funny, cross stitch is probably my favourite. Certainly one of, but I would feel like it is probably my favourite sort of craft hobby, I think. But it's also interesting how you go through phases of sort of not really wanting to do it. But when I'm into it, I can't put it down. It's like a good book, you know. I think it's possibly down to the fact that such intricate design, look like so many different colours, and it's just always interesting. I say always, pretty much always. I mean, this bit's really boring down here. I've been having to force myself to do that in stages because it's just such a big block of colour. But for the most part, like, all of these bits are just, there's just so much design to it and detail, and just the fact, like, different colour changes and things. I think with knitting, unless you're doing like a Fair Isle design, it's all just backwards and forwards, and it is, I don't know, when you're doing a basic pattern, it's not, I don't know, it's not boring, but you kind of feel like it'd be quicker to do it on a machine. But I feel like you achieve more if you're doing something that has got detail and has got design and maybe different types of stitches in. I just feel like cross stitch is something it's never not boring, you know. Okay, I think I might go on to doing this bit up here. I think it's yellow, I believe. I've already started doing, so it's like the top of a jam jar or something. So I think I'll just finish that bit along there as I've started that. And there's some half stitches in that as well. Yeah, let's do that bit next. So it's just a dash, which is this one, a nice sort of pale yellow, which is pretty. Let's see. Come on. Oh, there's not loads there anyway, that's okay. I'll just find the end, let's do that one. Do a knot in the end. I like to get it as close to the end as possible, so I don't waste thread, obviously. I'd double knot it as well. Right. Okay, it sounds like the kids are leaving school, which means it might be a bit noisy. Oh dear. Okay, right, so this, let's just have a look, is going along 6 stitches, and there's a half stitch at the end. I mean, we could maybe I'll just go up and down instead of across. I think we just do up and down. Yeah, let's do that. Okay, so we're going to start there. Okay, just go all the way down to the bottom. Paying attention to any half stitches at the end. What I might do actually is just come down 3 and then go up 3 the next side. Okay, right, so there is a half stitch there. And there's a half stitch there. Lovely. And then come up these bits. I've just put a little bit of the orange through there, but that's okay. I'm not precious. So that's those two. Let's just take that off mine as well. And then go along another two. Those two half stitches, and then we're going to start going back up again. And then just cross them off. And then another two. There's another two columns. Oops, catched it around my finger behind. But when the thread gets a bit shorter like that, it's pay more attention to where your fingers are. I'm looking forward to getting the black lining done at the end, because I just feel like it's really going to make everything a bit more, I suppose, 3D. I just think it's going to look really good at the end, but it is going to be a lot of detail and a lot of work to get that bit done at the end. Right, so, oops, that's those two done as well. So next, so it's a half stitch, then two, and then a few half stitches around. Okay, that's fine. Let's try and do that. So we've got a half stitch there, and then two half stitches. Yeah, one, two, and then there's a half stitch there, and then over here, there, and there. Oh, okay. And then back up for those two. Just tick them off. Cool. Right, as I have got some of that left, I haven't got lots. The options are I either work on the corn bit with the last of this bit of yellow, or I do this bit around here. I don't know. I'm tempted to do that bit because that would be much easier with more thread, whereas because I see my little nail broke off, so just a stubby finger. That would be much easier with longer thread. Whereas like the dotty bits is going to go right up, it's going to carry on, so I might just do those bits. Okay, so we just cast this bit off. If it's not too far to stretch, then I'll always sort of I'll just carry it over. But that's too far, and it's just, you just got to be sort of considerate over how much thread you're going to be using, and like comparing it against like casting off and reattaching, or just sort of dragging over. You want to be preserving as much thread as possible, because well, you can buy more, can't you? But it's going to be a different dye lot and all that sort of thing. So if you're doing like specifically, say for example you're doing a big block of colour, if you then have to go and buy a new batch of thread, for example, then it's likely to show. It's like if you're knitting a jumper, you want all the balls of wool to be from the same dye lot, because if they're not, then you'll see a potential change in the colour. It might only be marginal, but in certain lights or whatever it could be quite obvious. But it's just things like that you want to take into consideration. But okay, so where are we looking for this bit? It's up here. Which I think is this bit here. Yes. Oh, is it? I think it's that one right there. Okay, cool. Let's just cross the bottom. We're going to do one stitch there. And then we're coming up, and it's one. It's quite a bit of a way, that one. Whoops. Oh well. It's there. This is why I thought this bit a good bit to use the thread on, because there's lots of just random stitches. And this bit won't go all that far, so it just makes sense to kind of do what I can with it. It's just a little bit bitty. Right, so then it's left diagonal. And I'm going to do this one, and then I'll just sort of start highlighting just to make sure I don't get confused. So, done that one, that one, that one, and then that one. Up to the right. And I think it's up to the left again. Yep. And then it's up to the right again, I believe. And then what I'm going to do no. I think I'm going to cast that off there because it's not quite long enough. And I don't want to have to get into if you don't leave enough thread to cast off, you end up, it comes out of the needle when you're trying to feed it through at the back, and then it just becomes, it just takes a very long time. It's very fiddly. Well, basically I just wouldn't recommend it. I'm just going to colour, just mark those bits off quickly. Okay, and I think I might leave it there for today. So I haven't done that much, but I can also do another video. That's another point. I've done a few bits. I certainly had some effect. We've put some growth down here. We have some grass. We finished the lid here. We've filled in this gap, and then we've done some corn up the top. So yeah, it's been good. I hope it's been informative for you. And if you've got any questions, let me know. Just drop them in the comments below, and if I can help, I will. But I'll answer questions in general, and I can always do another one of these in the future. It's been about a year, I think, since I uploaded my last cross stitch one, so I'll try not to leave it so long next time. Okay, anyway, I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you again soon. Alright?